The following is a presentation of iRacing on PTR TV. We'd like to thank all of our channel partners for their support. Please like and subscribe to the channel, and we hope you enjoy today's broadcast. The second half of the season is now upon us in Season 7 of the American Muscle Series. We've seen quite the chaos and quite the interesting racing here as we've completed 6 of them, with the most recent being at the Nürburgring, and Round 7 takes us to Alabama. The Barber Motorsports Park is a well-known staple in American motorsport, most notably holding the NTT IndyCar Series once a year. Tonight, let's take these Ford Mustang FR500Ss and see what they can do under the clouds and with the ever threat of rain amongst us. Welcome everybody to the channel again for round number 6 here of round number 7. Excuse me, I just said it and I already forgot what I said. We are at the Nürburgring. Oh my God, Andre, we're starting off great today. I just said my intro perfect and then immediately butchered it.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're like Michael Waltrip. We're at the wrong track. So, not at the Nürburgring. We were last week, of course. But either way, you did say something interesting in that intro there, Corey, talking about the potential threat of rain. I think the listing was like 13% chance for about 10 minutes, but we're going to do the commentator thing, and we're going to blow that vastly out of proportion and just say that it's going to be dramatic. The threat of rain looms. But it is interesting that it has been implemented, even if we don't get rain tonight, Corey. The fact that it has been implemented mid-season, that's a bit of a curveball for a league that doesn't tend to make very many changes mid-season or anything in the thick of it. They tend to do things from season to season. I was a little bit surprised.
Yeah, and this is something that I very seldom do on a broadcast. Because it does break the immersion of it. But the only way for us to get the details of this impending rain is to actually go into the iRacing driver's interface. So I will bring that up again. This is something I very seldom do, and something magically happened, Andre, because all these values are 0. They were not 0 when we checked them 15 minutes ago. So don't know what that means. It's still cloudy. And it's still...
it could be because that was the... Are we in qualifying now?
We are in qualifying, so I guess the forecast changes between sessions, even though they're concurrently spaced out. I don't quite know, but either way, let's take a look here. No, we still are in practice. This is the end of practice. So now it's even more confusing, Gunner, because this is the end of practice here. I'm looking here on my back-end ticker. I know I gave you the timing sheet in the background as well. So we had just went up to a 13% chance of rain about 20 minutes ago, and now it's down to 0. So clearly we are not in Alabama. We are in New England, where the weather changes that quickly. So we'll take a look at it in just a minute here, because now qualifying is starting. We have a 10-minute qualifying session. Laps around Barber right around a minute and a half, a couple seconds longer than that. So we're going to run with the 10-minute qualifying, which should give maybe 4 laps or so. And just quite visibly here, you can see that the sun has come out. So one more check, and that's probably the last time we do this. 0%. 0%. So all that rain hoopla, throw it in the garbage, because it ain't gonna rain. Just because we said that, it's gonna downpour. I was telling Andre off there. The Chicago Street Course NASCAR race had a 10% chance of rain, and if anyone watches NASCAR, you know how that one ended up. But let's go over our point standings very quickly here before we get too in-depth. These guys do have their out lap and then the whole lap, so we won't see any qualifying laps on the board for a few minutes' time. After race 6 at the Nürb, Pro is still on the cusp right there. They are super close. Sanchez has just a 2-point lead over Scotty Banks. This is without the drop week. Remember, they don't get a drop week in the Pro standing, so actually that still is 100% accurate. Luis Enriquez, after his win, still has a ways to go, but has clawed into third. Andrus is up by 14 over Labano and Hodgson, and then Levi Powell, a small lead over Dave Blair. But we do have to remember a drop week does apply in the lower tier divisions.
Yes, but no drop week again for the pros. While we get our qualifying outlaps underway, I do want to point out some other changes in addition to the rain possibility that we're seeing. Again, probably not going to see any rain, but it has been enabled. But the other change is that the fuel limit for these cars has been changed from 35% to 40%. The reason this was changed was because after the tire pressure change that iRacing implemented, the changes they made to this car, the amount of fuel they were burning had changed, which changed the fuel window that we were seeing in previous seasons. So increasing it from 35 to 40 basically puts us back at the same fuel window that we had previously. And from what Mr. McGrew was telling us in the admin broadcast chat, he's getting about 18 laps of fuel on a run.
Oh, 7, 8. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. I'm sorry. There was a lot of numbers in that one sentence, and I misinterpreted it. So,
yeah, so about 18 laps on a full tank, and I do want to note as well, just so we're not frantically covering this at the start of the race, which is, it only took me a season and a half to, think of when we should cover this, but we do have one penalty that you're going to see served this week should the driver show up. That is Eli Croft in the 242. Unsafe rejoin last week at the NERB, and now in the Taco Bell machine, he will be making a stop and go. And that is pretty much all we have to cover there.
He's the Taco Bell car, and he has to make a drive-through.
Yes, he does.
All right, yeah.
He's got a mobile order maybe waiting for him in there.
Yes, and if depending on what Taco Bell he has, he may be waiting for quite some time here. Just kind of waiting through, and it looks like a few drivers may be on their outlap, or rather on their actual laps now. We're about 6.5 minutes in, so I would expect some times here. We do have this little fancy tracker here on our map. I think, let's see, he is the furthest ahead on our tracker. Yep, he is on a lap. This is Daniel Gabbled on there. I always feel like we get those syllables mixed up, but who else we got? No, we do have some laps flowing in already here, so let's see where they are. Kevin Parrish, a 1:37. Luis Enriquez, a 1:37.20. Fench right in there. Mr. Hosey at a 1:38.9. That puts him in the 10th spot. So we got some guys coming on in here with their laps. Reese Gardner, he's usually a top 5 to 8 driver. Let's see where he falls on the board. I'll be about a half second off, and that will relegate him to a position of nothing. It must not have counted. It must have been an off track.
Yeah, that is definitely possible. I think this track, correct me if I'm wrong, Corey, but I think this track is a little bit of an older scan, so it's a little bit finicky when it comes to the track limits and how much you can get away with dipping your tires into the grass or up on the curb. So it is something they're going to have to be careful of, just as every week, maybe just a little bit more so this week. Again, Parrish leading the way currently, 137.16 to Henriquez, 137.2. We'll see if Parrish improves. Again, this tire model seems to get faster and faster as the tires go away. So I would expect the heat coming into the tires, laps 2 and 3 for these drivers, if they get a third lap, should be an improvement as long as they hit their marks. Keeping an eye now on Matt Malone coming to complete his lap. Time to beat, again, 137.1. What can Malone get?
It won't be that. That was a little bit of a stinker.
Yeah, it's a little bit off pace for Mr. Malone.
David Moore, look at him. Oh, just as I say, look at him. Parrish again beats him, but David Moore has really been on a good streak there. You can see them flying in Sedenga, McGrew. We got some other ones thrown in. Where's Scotty Banks here on track? He has... Well, he'll be coming across there's the pit exit right there, the pit entry rather, the final little bus stop, final little chicane, and the final corners of this track very much akin to Mid-Ohio, the way you kind of have a little Chicane leading onto the pit straight here, but let's see what Mr. Banks can do. He's 15th as of now, and he won't be on the pole, but he will be in the second spot after that lap.
Scotty Banks in the running for the championship. Again, second in points versus Jack Sanchez. Here's Dahan02 trying to beat the 1:36.3 time that Parrish has set. And we'll see what he can clock in that team-associated Mustang. Jay Bast in the Jay Bast Mustang. Again, love the fact that you never really have to look too hard to see who's driving that machine. It looks like his lap time is... Did that even count?
No, it didn't. It was like it was in the 50s, so I don't think he wanted it to count anyways. You got Jeff Besnard here. He's been on a really bad luck spree as of late, looking to turn that around here.
Now, hold on. Weren't we told in the slew of
corrections? He has a silent S in his name. That's what
it's Bernard, I think.
Yes, that was the whole topic of conversation in Discord about midweek. As here comes Henriquez.
We got roasted. Our day was ruined.
Henriquez up to third there. Good job by him.
I don't even trust that that's Henriquez anymore. Maybe it's Libano. I mean, I don't know what to believe anymore.
Here comes Chuk Chuk. I don't know how else to say that, but I'm sure there obviously is. We got Matt Maloney. I mean, that's another easy way to butcher that one. I mean, Reese Sanchez. Reese Sanchez. Yeah, that's a new way to say Gardner.
That's close enough.
RH. How many? Is there another word to say that? I don't know. We'll
the Ryzen processor in the '94 car.
David Moori. There you go.
It sounds about right to me.
But yeah.
David Moore, he's been doing really good in the qualifying the last few weeks, currently sitting P7. I am curious to see if he improves at all here with his second lap. That red, white, and blue Mustang, again, qualified, I believe, second last week and was up front battling it for the lead. He was in contention all week. We'll see if he can double it up here with another good performance in that 13 machine, not too far from the stripe. Now we're going to go on board. A lot of elevation change, a little bit of banking through some of these corners even. It's a very high-speed circuit. Down the straightaway, what is it going to be? I don't think it's going to be pole, but it will be a respectable 136.6. Not going to be
should
too
keep
much of
him
an
right about
improvement,
where he is. So no, he should jump one spot. No, it didn't count.
Oh no!
Because that would have been
that would have put him up to 5th.
Yeah, it would have, but
6th.
Did not count. Scotty Banks, I think, he'll still get one more chance. He's at a 36.5, and he needs to get into that 35-second mark that Parrish has gotten himself into. And obviously he will not do that. Who else is on circuit? Neil Kemp. That's a good improvement, assuming it counts. Yep, Neil Kemp up to 4th spot. That's a great job by him. So move that 99 up into the top 5. This lap will not count for Chuck Labano, and nobody else will be able to get a flyer. Actually, Greg Rogers still running on circuit. I saw him get 2 wheels in, so that probably will invalidate this one. And looks as though it will. So Rogers will not get a time in, because remember, we don't get a cool down lap here. So once that timer expires, that is all that they are going to get. I did very quickly bring up the graphic because I did... in my not knowing what number race or track this was in our opening, we did miss the opportunity to go over our race presenting sponsor, of D-Nut Stuff. They help put on this league as well. They're helping along with that. You can get some custom league merch, AMS merch. I've seen people with AMS stainless steel cups. You can get, I know he does some kind of wood engravings for the champions and a bunch of cool stuff done by Mike Neekum there. So check that Etsy link out in the description. Get some cool stuff. Help support the league. Help support D-Nut Stuff, the company, as well. And of course, if you are new to the channel, like and subscribe. Help us out with that on our way to 1,400 subscribers, and we're getting there at a pretty good lick. So let's just see if we can get there that much quicker. But now, let's start our gridding process. We got about 40 of them, and we got to get through it in 3.5 minutes. So let's head down trackside, Andre.
It is going to be Kevin Parrish on the pole in that 69 machine, 135.9, one of the only drivers to break into that bracket. Luke Sedenga, P2. I'm sorry, it's not Sedenga. It's how did he say to pronounce it?
Sudenge?
Sudenge, yes, Sudenge. I apologize. Luis Enriquez is going to be P3. Neil Kemp, 4th with an impressive effort. 5th place belongs to Scotty Banks. Reese Gartner going to be P6. If you look back to 7th, you're going to see David Finch in that purple and green Mustang. Then David Moore rounds out 8th place. And for finishing out the top 10, Matt Malone, P9, and Jack Sanchez, current points leader, back in 10th.
Jeff Schnackle, the OG bomb pop, in 11th, with Rado McGrew, our league admin, running in 12th. Cam D. Decker, I think we've said that right, but apparently everyone says it wrong. He's in 13th. Jeff Andrus in the 14th spot. 15th is Levi Powell, our amateur points leader, with Greg Hartman, a good run for him out of Colorado, in that 16th spot. 17th finds Chuck Labano, the Canadian, and then Charlie Hosey. Let's see what his name's going to be next week, because I'm sure it'll be different. He's in 18th. 19th and 20th finds Andy Smith from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. That's not redundant whatsoever. And then Matt Thompson in 20th.
And looking outside the top 20, Evan Hoopchok. I haven't seen that name in a while. I think he's been absent for a few weeks. He's P21. Matthew Gazenda is going to be 22nd. 23rd goes to Dan Ott in the Associated Mustang. Jeff Bernard going to be P24. Aaron That Face. Hold on. I got it. There we go. Aaron That Face Bray going to be 25. 26 goes to Jay Little. 27 and 28 is going to go to, drumroll please, Freddie Weaver. He's not last. John A. Casey, 28th. 29th goes to Jesse Hodgson, and if you look at 30th, you're going to find James Donahue.
All right, we got 31st, Tom Wendt, Stefan Price in 32nd. 33rd finds Scott Brooks, and then Ricky Paz in another bomb pop in the 34th spot. 35th is Brandon Smith, Dave Blair in 36th. 37th is Eli Cloft. He'll drop to the back, but he's already there anyways. Mike Neekum in 38 with D-Nut Stuff. Daniel Gabaldon in 39th. 40th, we have Jay Bass. We're on our warning. We got Greg Rogers in 41st. Ryan Campbell, 42nd, and Shotgun. It's Brandon Carl in 43rd. You think we have a Winston Cup NASCAR grid with the number of drivers we have here on the evening. Our weather conditions, we already brought it up. It probably won't rain, even though we were told it might, but it ain't, because iRacing's changing its mind on us. 75 in the air, 78 track temp, about 5:45 virtual time here. So we're back in America after a few weeks in Europe, but let's get ourselves racing here. We got 43 strong, gonna go here at Barber Motorsports Park, and Kevin Parrish is gonna get him underway. Green, green, green. Let's fight off into turn 1, and I think Neil Kemp must have missed a shift there.
And it's going to be a veil of tire smoke. Everybody getting on the throttle as hard as they can down into the first corner. We're going to single file out for the lead in a big wreck. Further back, they are still spinning. One driver off into the kitty litter. They're going to have to see exactly who is involved, but they're going to sneak through it somehow. Just 3 cars majorly involved. They're going to get back on track. Doesn't seem that too many of them are heavily damaged.
But let's see. Try to make out. We'll try to make out some of what happened there, because a bunch of guys had some issues there in the corner. You can see the 141 I caught. He got turned there, and we had a bunch of other carnage going on. Levi Powell had some problems. All right, so he's all the way down to the inside. He got in the grass. That was the initiation. He was in the grass, and you could just see. Well, we're trying to find angles here. There's the 55 of Matthew Guzenda. Hang tight. He is backwards. We'll get one more perspective from him, and then we'll cut back to live action. Go on board with that 55 car. Yeah, he could see there that stuff going on, the purple car, and then he went around, and a bunch of people going off into the grass. But turn 1 hoopla happens every now and then here, but going back to live action, and everybody has snaked themselves through up front to complete lap number 1 here at the Barber Motorsports Park. Kevin Parrish up by 0.3 of a second over Luis Henriquez, Sedenga, Banks, and Gardner, rounding out our top 5 as things carry on here. And I think Greg Hartman may have had another faux pas.
Yeah, this would be incident number 2 very early in this event.
Where'd he go?
We'll take a look. Oh, my goodness. It's a fireworks show on the track down there. Looks like he is blinking in and out down by the concrete barrier.
Yeah, he did a lag switch there. He did a lag switch to evade us seeing his incidents here. Here comes Matt Malone side by side with Neil Kemp. I could have swore I saw Neil Kemp on the start miss a shift, because he was back to 4th. He started 4th, but now he's already outside of the top 10, getting passed by Malone, and then Randall McGrew in close proximity to that rear bumper here. Hard on the brakes for the right-hander here. This is kind of the corkscrew, and big contact there.
Come on,
who's that?
Another
David
wreck.
Finch.
Uh-oh.
Remember the tire model here in this car, and while I was looking at the replay, the 104 of Jeff Andrus as well had an issue.
So that 35 just coming out of the corner, it's a self-spin. Might have got on the throttle a little bit too hard there. Now that is downhill, significantly downhill. And I think what's getting him there, Corey, 2 cars in the same corner. I gotta wonder if it's not the weight transfer coming down that hill around the corner, just getting this thing sideways. I mean, again, this tire model, so much more difficult with the rear end wanting to step out. And again, another spin.
It makes you want to say, is it raining? But we're almost definitive that it's not here. He was underneath
It's raining instant points, maybe.
I think that was Camdy Decker, perhaps. Or I can't tell. It was a 220-something car, but... yeah, this is a we've covered these guys for, as you said, Andre, a season and a half, and this is probably the most chaotic start we've ever seen.
Yeah, it's been rough. And again, I think it's the tire model combined with the elevation change. Here comes
Eli on his penalty.
Yep, Mr. Cloth getting his mobile order with his penalty from last week.
Hey, it's Tuesday. The first 20,000 people on the Taco Bell app usually get an item, a specialty item for $1. Last week it was a Crunchwrap Supreme.
I didn't know there was any fast food restaurants that had a dollar menu anymore. But the battle for the overall lead is still between these 4 drivers, Kevin Parrish, Enriquez Sudenge, and Scotty Banks. Now, the leader for the amateur division is actually ahead of the challenger. Amateur is Jeff Schnackle in P11, the original bomb pop, and he has it by about 2 seconds over Andy Smith in the 223. Currently leading challenger right behind them is Matt Thompson in the 133. That's had a string of good runs lately.
And then this guy.
That guy, Charlie Hosey, Charles Hosea, whatever he decides he's going to be this week.
Yeah, he's in that 14 spot. And
wait a minute, is this another waifu? No, Corey, he did it.
The paint
he
scheme.
Did the thing.
So, to take terrible jokes and put them back in context, how do you remember his name? Well, it's not a high C juice box. It's a Ho-C juice box. It'd be kind of an alcoholic drink that you'd get at the club. You'd get a Ho-C juice box. So
it turns out it's a real thing.
Well, if you ask ChatGPT, it turns into a real thing. So it's Ho-C. Put it on the back bumper. It's Ho-C. Yes. I love it. I love these guys. If we ever get fired from this series, I am genuinely going to be upset. So let's try not to have that happen. These guys
this is like the only fun I have in the booth anymore. This is like the last bastion of fun.
You better hope that none of our other leagues see this, because we might get fired from those. But there's David Moorey getting in close contacts with Matt Maloney here as we try to butcher as many names as possible for the sake of entertainment. Malone getting into the grass there, but keeps the car under his control. Just behind them is Kemp McGrew, and then what's Jack Sanchez doing there outside of the top 10?
Yeah, he qualified in 10th, and it looks like he's still in 10th, so he's not really improving, not really falling back. But again, with the points battle being so close between him and Mr. Banks in the 51, you'd think he'd want to put on a bit of a barn burner here, but unfortunately it doesn't seem like the handling is there. Usually Sanchez doesn't qualify the best. That's not a rarity to see him start just at the bottom of the top 10 or even outside of it, but usually by now he's making moves to get towards the front, and that's just not happening. So that is strange to see. We'll see if the car does come to him, but man, oh man, this gaggle of cars here, the battle for P24, they are getting on those brakes hard. This elevation change, throwing these cars around, looking back from the rear bumper of Hoop Chalk here. And it is definitely a challenging circuit. Like you said, one of the most chaotic starts to a race we've had. And I think it's only going to get more chaotic once these drivers have to figure out how to get down pit road and get those cars serviced. As the admin told us, pit window between laps 8 and laps 18. It's about when they're going to want to come down. So,
all right, I guess we don't have a blimp cam here. Oh, there we go. There's a lot
We
of
do
stuff
indeed
going
have
on.
the one of the 13 blimps in the world.
And, you haven't seen that anymore. That was always the biggest thing. You know, you watch a racing on ESPN back in the day. We'd like to thank the Goodyear blimp for this. And I mean, how many races? When was the last time you actually saw a blimp at a racetrack? But I know iRacing has one. Here comes Malone all the way to that back bumper of Moore, and he's going to look outside here, but he's going to have to retort that effort and pull back in line here, coming through the little technical bit. Now he's going down to the inside, and the door is going to get shut by Moore as they come through the middle section of the circuit here. Start to run out of passing zones towards the end of the track, because that's where things really get technical, as somebody's locking the binders up.
Yeah, that was Neil Kemp behind Mr. Malone there. He came in the corner a little bit hot, had to get on the brakes to keep off the rear bumper. Kemp has some pace. He missed the shift on the start. He lost a few positions, but he qualified really well, and he is keeping right up with Matt Malone. So I would not count him out tonight. I would definitely keep an eye on that 99 machine, because he is showing great speed, and this is a fun battle. As you can see, David Moore trying to hold on, some great talent behind him, and he is maintaining the position. Now this battle, again, going back to these boys, Jay Little and friends, going to go side by side down into the braking zone, and again, just getting on those brakes so hard. This car looks like such a handful, Corey.
Yes, it is, and where it is a little bit later in the day here, we're going to get to see those rotors light up a little bit more than usual. We got another battle going on here. Those spiders just throw me off every single lap here, off on the scenery there. You got Labano there in a different color car here, just to throw us off even further. Another Haviland car. Usually the Haviland car is always Jeff Bernard, pardon me, but in this case we have Tom Wendt. Had a lot of Haviland on that car. Here comes Labano looking to the left, so he'll be driver's side here on a right-hander. And let's see if he can make something happen out of there. We'll go on board Stefan Price here, going down the corkscrew. They'll exit that corkscrew and then head into a little flick to the left, which immediately gives you a turn to the right here. Can't really do too much in the way of passing through this bit as we close in on the back end of the lap.
Yep, so he is going to complete his lap here. Just an update on the Challenger Division battle. Charlie Hosey has taken the lead for Challenger. He's gotten around Matt Thompson. So Hosey is now going to be 13th. Jeff Schnackle still leads the way as far as amateur is concerned, and that's a driver who's just really come out of nowhere these last couple weeks. I mean, he's never been a bad driver, but now he is just every week leading laps in amateur division and really putting on some good shows. He got caught up as we go 3 wide here.
In the hairpin.
This is not going to end well. Okay, it ended well.
Moore okay in the middle, Malone to the outside, Kemp in the middle, and evidently Malone's trying to make that middle lane work. I mean, you'd think we're at Talladega with that verbiage here, but now the main passing zone is over with now.
Whoa.
You'd think it would be here.
Cutting him some slack there.
Heading into the corkscrew. That's not usually where you want to see these guys making these moves. Now they head through the S's, which is basically turns 7 through 8 here. And they're still side by side. McGrew and Sanchez. Would you ever believe that one?
Oh, no. I would never believe these two would be near each other on track and possibly cause some chaos. I couldn't think of it, but Sanchez going to hold on to the position. David Moore doing everything he can to cling on to his current running order, looking from the back bumper of Sanchez. Keep your eye on Mr. McGrew. These two have history, and I'm not saying they're going to wreck each other. They're more professional than that, but they might put the bumper to each other, get each other a little bit unsettled, rattle their cage, so to speak, and up into that grass there. They got to be careful with that. We saw lap 1, dipping your tires into the grass was the cause of that turn 1 chaos, getting stuck in the grass, having to try to overcorrect out of it. But what did I say about Neil Kemp, man? I said keep your eye on him, and that 2-for-1 pass he just made was solid, and he is now reeling in 5th place Reese Gartner, so do not count him out. Battle for the lead on your screen. These three have separated just a little bit, and Scotty Banks has fallen away from that pack, but I think give it some time, and they're going to come back together, especially with Neil Kemp now being in open air. He's free to run down these cars up ahead. Sedenge, Scotty Banks, these drivers just watching a plume of smoke, apparently. I don't know where that smoke came from, Corey. Looks like somebody had an issue right in front of our leaders, which is the 3rd week in a row something like that has happened. Not sure if we have anything on our timing data about that.
Let's try to go back and see. As of late, nothing immediate, but there is something we may have missed. Greg Hartman again? No, he's having connection issues, so that won't show us anything. But Jeff Andrus here, he had issues earlier and more issues on the corkscrew. And I think we have David Moore also here. Slow little loop there right in front of Sanchez and McGrew. So at this point, I wouldn't so much put it on the cold tires as it is anything else. I mean, at this point, the tires should be as optimal as they're going to be here, as we are 9 laps in. So per what Randall said, the fuel window would be open if drivers wanted to pit this early in the race. The opportunity would avail itself, but this usually we do the last possible stop. That's really the only strategy that's ever really had serious efforts applied to it. But back here, Malone just can't get himself into open real estate. He is glued to Kemp, and it looks like Reese Gardner may be kind of slowing these guys up a little bit. He's fallen off the clutches of the first group of drivers and is now going to be hanging on. You can see there on the lap graph, he was about a second slower than the 2 drivers behind him.
Yeah, just a little bit off pace again, getting close to halfway.
Wait, is this a pit stop or is Charlie Hosey, that juice box has been squished. It's...
Yes, sir.
I don't really have anywhere else to go with that, but let's see.
We are going to take a look at the PTR TV replay.
What exactly the hell?
Happened? What?
Was that
on Earth? Let's take a look at the onboard. Was this a disconnect?
I mean, the wheel never turned until after he wrecked, and the
wheel didn't turn, but it didn't look like it was rigid either. I wonder if the monitor shut off, and that's what we're seeing here.
Yeah, I just want to make sure nothing happened from behind. He did have guys in close proximity to him, but yeah, that thing just went straight.
Wow, that's got to be some sort of hardware issue, and massively unfortunate. Again, he was leading the way for his division, and now that is going to be his day done. If he hasn't already used up his drop week,
and
this will be it.
Levi Powell leading the amateur division. He's going to finish shotgun 43rd here on the evening, so not a good day. And we saw Jeff Andrus up there as well, so not a good day to be a points leader. As we can see here, Scotty Banks has been, I mean, he's still in 4th, so he's not doing too bad, but he's not doing a Scotty Banks things here today. He's just kind of being a normie. As here comes Malone and Kemp. These guys have been just glued to each other all race. Coming down through the corkscrew here, and Malone gonna make it around the outside here through the predominant part of the corkscrew, and then heads to the kink of, I believe it to be turn number 10 here. And really, after turn number 10, we start to whoa up for the back end of the lap, and there's really not much you can do from 11 to 14. I mean, you can always force the pass. Every racer will always say every corner on the track is a chance to pass. Every corner on the track is a chance to pass. I mean, according to some guys, and Neil Kemp took that quite literally here as he rounds out 13. There's the pit straight right off in the distance here, but we're going to round off again the exit of this track, the final corners here. Very much akin to Mid-Ohio. That's what I like to think of here when I relate Barber. Kind of similar tracks and a lot of capacities here, but they will keep going. And up front, as soon as I think that Henriquez is making some headway, he falls back in line and gets back about 3/4 of a second. But we have to remember how he won last week, Andre. He won it in the pits because Kevin Parrish underfueled. So you have to wonder, I mean, that's going to be on Kevin Parrish's mind, you know, taking that ideal amount to keep in front, to keep the lead, but you also have to finish the race.
Yeah, obviously, you can only win it on the last lap. Everything else is a precursor. And remember the last time Henriquez had a last lap issue and threw the race away, he came back to victory lane. He was driving very motivated. I think Kevin Parrish may be driving under similar circumstance here. He knows he let last week get away from him, and he doesn't want to let it get away this week here at Barber. So he's driving the car as hard as he can, and I'm sure he's got the fuel strategy planned out in his head. He knows exactly when he wants to come down pit road. He's probably timing it out so that he doesn't come out in traffic. That's what you want to do. Oh, no. It was a heck of a save there. All of these incidents just looking identical. The rear end is just stepping out on these guys. Yep, fishtailing, gets into the Armco. Yeah, he closes in through this section of the track. It seems to be he's just kind of yo-yoing back and forth. He'll reel him in a little bit, and then he'll give that time back up. The real question is going to be who's got the better in and out time when they finally do come down pit road. Again, 21 minutes remaining. We are just shy of halfway, and this is where the window is going to be the most active. You're going to see a lot of cars diving down. Luke Sedenge doing a really good job keeping these guys at least in view. Does not want to let them drive off into the proverbial or literal sunset. As you can see, that sky bright orange over there. And as long as he can keep them in view, he's got a chance to get them on the pit stop, maybe close in that gap a little bit. And here we go. Yes, we did. I'll tell you what, give me $10. I will run down onto the track with a garden hose, and you know, we'll make it sprinkle.
Hard on the brakes here.
There.
Yeah, aggressive through the corkscrew there. But, you know, you got to stick with them somehow. And, you know, you're not a racer if you're not pushing track limits.
I'll tell you what, I think Sedenge is actually closing in a little bit. He's getting a little bit closer to these drivers, and I think he'd be smart to pit with them whenever they come down pit road. We'll have to see what the strategy is going to be last time by for these drivers. Kevin Parrish 136.3, Luis Enriquez was actually a 136.2, and Sedenge 136.4, but I don't think that tells the full story. It is fluctuating that gap back and forth, faster and slower at certain parts of the track. Now onto the straightaway, which you're right, a little bit like Mid-Ohio in that section. And then off in the distance you see Scotty Banks in the 51 starting to slip out of this battle. He was right there with them at the start of this race, but he's just been slipping back a little bit. And here's a battle as you have Reese Gartner trying to navigate some traffic. I believe those are lap down cars, but he's got Jack Sanchez and Malone right behind.
Yep, that car to the outside, that 298, I believe that was Ryan Campbell going a fifth lap down, and Jack Sanchez, remember, he started 7th, so now he's up to 7th. He started 10th, he's up to 7th, so he's +3 on the day. Realistically, he can get to 5th, I think, because that's Sanchez, that's Malone and Gardner right in front of him. But there's a massive gap up to Scotty Banks of about 7 seconds to separate the 4th and 5th spot, so it will take some extracurricular efforts to break that gap. Going a little bit further back, DeCunha O'Toole, Mr. Dan Ott. He was the guy who started the trend of mispronouncing names that are relatively easy to say versus the opposite, which is now the case of not being able to say the names that seem simple. So, but he is side by side with Andy Smith, who is a name, I don't know if he's relatively new or whatever it is, but definitely not a name that I remember too vividly. But that's all battling just outside the top 10.
I don't know much about him. He seems to be a pretty suave guy. But I believe he was here last week. I think he's a relatively new name, but he's doing really well for himself. P11, currently second in the amateur division, second only to Jeff Schnackle, who, again, for an amateur class driver, just putting on a heck of a show here. P9, inside the top 10. He's got a huge gap to the next amateur driver, and this has been a Jeff Schnackle kind of race, it would seem. David Moore, another impressive driver, qualified pretty well, but he has fallen back a little ways since the start of the event. He's now battling with Dan Ott, or Dahano 2. This battle right here heating up significantly. Enriquez got to the tow hitch. He has never looked back. He brought it down from 8/10 to 7/10, from 7 to 6, and now he is right there. And again, I think it's going to be a matter of who comes down first. And my other question, Corey, is, does this change in their maximum fuel capacity affect how much fuel they need to take? Does it affect their calculations at all? Is this going to be a bit of a wild card for them?
Yeah, I mean, you would think that, comparative just to last week, which is the only race where the sample size, well, the difference would have applied, they would have to take less fuel than last week, you would imagine. But other than that, maybe you have to make sure that you have your auto fuel set appropriately, or if you said you've done your calculations, if you have a third-party tool, just make sure the tweaks are made, because if you're just going off of what you did last week, then you are going to probably be under fueling. I don't quite know, Matt. I mean, fuel has just never been a good thing to me. I usually just always fill it up and wonder why I'm 5 seconds back and running slower, just because I've had enough situations in my life of running out of fuel where I typically just fill it up, because I just don't have the skill to do what these guys do with filling it to the millimeter. Or the milliliter,
honestly,
I suppose. Milligallon.
To kind of answer my own milligallon. To answer my own question, and the more I think about it, really the change in how much fuel they needed to take really came when they made the update to the car, and they changed how much fuel is burned with the tire pressure change. So it's been a little bit different for the last couple weeks, quite frankly. But Dan Ott, David Moore, they're coming down pit road. They're going to get those Mustangs some fresh tires and some fuel. In the meantime, this battle, Gardner, Malone, and Sanchez, again, has not been a standard Sanchez race. He's been a little bit further back in the field. Not that 7th place is bad. It's just unusual to see Sanchez not battling for the lead. It's been week after week you see him up there, and now he's not. So it's just a bit jarring to see, quite frankly. And Malone as well, another driver that's always battling for the podium, and he's trapped a little bit further back. So this track and this car proving to give us a little bit of separation among the field, more separation than we would usually see. And I think that might be exemplified by the upcoming pit sequence. Jack Sanchez may be a little bit quicker than Malone right now. You can see he's outbraking him into the corners, and he's driving in his standard aggressive style. But like you said earlier, Corey, the back half of the lap, there's not that many opportunities for overtaking, and I think that's going to get pretty frustrating for some of these drivers. Here comes the leader down pit road, the prior leader, Kevin Parrish. He's going to hand it off to Enriquez and Sedenge, who stay out.
Stuck behind Bernard there.
Bernard.
Silent S. Name another word in the English language with a silent S, but he'll lose a little bit of time in his endeavors there. I will say, let's keep an eye on the pit time here, because this will be a new scope of information for us. If the graphic will pull up 11.2. That's he pulled off a 12.2 last week. I don't know how I remember that, but 12.2 was his stop last week, and it was short. So now he did 11.2, but we have more fuel in the cell. So is it enough? Is it under fueling? As what's that?
Well, it's still the same amount of gallons. I mean, it's going to take the same amount of time to put the same amount of gallons in,
but
regardless of what their maximum
capacity is. He's putting less in, but he probably still has more in the cell than he did last week. So that's where math and crew chiefing comes in, skills that I do not have. Here is the third place driver in our Challenger standings, Jesse Hodgson. He's exiting the pits, if it's any relation. His pit stop time is 11.5, and I'm just kind of going through the information that I have here on my back end, 11.3. So clearly that 11-second time in the pits is going to be the sweet spot, because if one guy's doing it, I guess it must be right. If typically there's always an anomaly, as that 2:21 has certainly seen better days. That is Greg Rogers.
Yeah, pit road getting busy. They're going to go 3 wide on pit road. Enriquez, Sedenge, Scotty Banks back there as well. Looking to get some fuel, maybe some tires. We did have some drivers mentioned. Yep,
he's back on track already.
On his out lap there.
Sanchez stays out another lap.
I kind of understand the play. I mean, obviously he didn't have the pace that he was probably hoping to have. And if you can't get him on speed, just do whatever they don't. And if they all come down pit road, stay out on track, take the clean air, see if you can maybe gain some time on the track in that clean air before you come down pit road. It could be a viable strategy. Parrish P2, Luis Enriquez in 3rd, Sedenge in 4th, Scotty Banks P5. A little bit of contact there from Sedenge to a lapped vehicle. But this battle between Parrish and Enriquez, this is kind of interesting, Corey. It is the exact same as it was before they came down pit road. They have merged out in exactly the same place relative to one another. And that's got to be frustrating for Enriquez to cycle out right where you were, looking at the back bumper, unable to make the overtake.
But I put Sedenga a little bit closer than he was. He was about 1.7 seconds behind that gap, behind those guys. I'd say he's roughly maybe 1.3, so he gained a little bit, and he's in the vital slipstream range now. We're very, very close to it. So that'll help him out here. Again, that spider, when I'm just not expecting it in the long shot there, it throws me off. But let's see what Mr. Sanchez does here. He's going to stay out once more, just past the pit entry, and he's going to complete another lap. This is lap number 19 that he is starting right now. So per what we were told, this is the absolute stretch end of the fuel range. So I would expect to see that 23 down pit road for, I would assume, about 11 seconds worth of fuel. He's trying to get that clean air. He's probably trying to run the best flyer he could possibly run. He's been in traffic all race, so that must be the strat, Andre. He's been in traffic all race. If he can run 2 or 3 laps in clean air, run the best times he can run, that may get him further up once everything cycles out.
Yeah, again, if he uses that clean air to his advantage, he could cycle out way further ahead. Pit road's still a busy place with 10 minutes to go, and that is exactly what Randall McGrew wanted to achieve when he gave him that little bit of extra fuel. He wanted them to be able to go further into the race, because we were seeing that prior to the change of the tire pressure and the change of the car. We would see drivers wait until under 10 minutes to make their pit stop, and then that change happened and they were burning fuel faster. They couldn't do that anymore. The pit window tightened up, and now it seems like that 5% change is just perfect, because it's got us right back where we were. So these drivers have a lot of options and a lot of choice when it comes to when they pit, how they pit. Really puts it back in their hands. So that is nice to see as we ride on board with Sanchez.
There he comes,
working his way towards pit road. One of the last drivers to pit, I would assume. Good pit road entry. He's going to need a good in and out time. And man, what a convoluted pit road entry this is. It's like you're running an obstacle course just to get to the pits, but he does make it to
confirm. He is the last driver to pit. Actually, Brandon Carl. He's the only other driver not to pit, so I would imagine Carl will be into the pits this time round. And let's get a relation to where our leaders are. Actually, they've already surpassed Jack Sanchez in the pits, and he's still doing his pit business. So that shows how far behind he was in relation. We know he was battling with Matt Malone. Here comes Malone and Reese Gardner. So in relation to those two, he'll blend out exactly where he was. He's going to have a head of steam here through 2, just the way that the pit exit works out. And again, come as it may, gain no time. You're exactly where you were prior to the stop. But if anything, they're a lot closer to where Reese Gardner was. I think that this will make a better battle. They're going to battle off into the hairpin. And he's going to look outside of Matt Malone, not something you normally see. Trying to go outside of a hairpin, but clearly didn't work.
No, not quite. But Either way, it was a valiant effort, and he does have an opportunity to pick up 2 positions here with Malone right in front of him. A little bit further back, we're looking at Mr. McGrew and Jeff Schnackle still leading the way as far as amateurs are concerned. It is a battle for 9th place. Randall McGrew cutting the corkscrew very, very tight, closes in quite a bit, but again, just very difficult to make the pass. It looks to me that there's a bit of damage to the front of Mr. McGrew's machine. Not sure where that came from, but I have been noticing it for a while. Looking back from the rear spoiler of the bomb pop, Jeff Schnackle.
Trying to see that damage here through the wing cam. You can see the front splitter is definitely raised up a little bit, but at these speeds, that's not usually going to be catastrophic, and it's obviously worse to have it than it would be not to have it. So, but again, more credit to Jeff Schnackle, because at this point, I mean, of course, we had a little bit of hoopla to start this race off with Andre, but still, this Mr. Jeff Schnackle, as he goes and drives all 4s into the grass, he's battling with guys he has certainly not battled with all season. He is Neil Kemp. We saw him. He qualified in the top 5. Randall McGrew, he's fighting for top 3s, top 5s on a regular basis. And here comes that bomb pop saying, hey, I bought some VC. I raised my skill stats. I could compete with you guys. I've been playing too much NBA 2K with the VC.
Really solid. And I was going to mention earlier, I think I got sidetracked, but he did get involved in a spin last week, and he lost like 10 positions or something. And by the end of the 40-minute race, he'd gotten them all back and then some. So Schnackle knows his way around a Mustang, and he's definitely somebody that all these veteran drivers should keep an eye on, as it looks like Quaff getting a little bit squirrely right in front of Reese Gartner. They're going to be able to navigate him. He gets the car back under control. But again, Jeff Schnackle trying to say, hey, I'm not an amateur, I'm not a challenger, I'm right here with the pros, and he's doing a great job of it. The delayed Taco Bell.
That's for Phil in chat. Phil, why aren't you here, Broseph? As here comes Carl.
Yeah, we've been missing him. We've been missing Mr. Keck. He hasn't been here. He wasn't here last week either, was he?
But up front there, Mr. Andre, the ebbs and flows of this lead are starting to ebb and flow less, because he is running a lot consistently closer, and that is the Mr. 6 car of Luis Enriquez. He's keeping the gap within a half a second, and here he is within a quarter of a second here coming up the hill, leading up into the turn 5 hairpin. This is the hardest braking zone, the best passing zone here on circuit. Hard left-hander, and now this leads you into the short straightaway that leads us into the corkscrew, as something just exploded there exiting the corkscrew. I saw debris flying, luckily not from the leaders, but we've seen a couple mistakes down in the corkscrew. Will we see one this time through?
We might. It could just be also the debris is from the connection issues we've seen tonight. That was a thing earlier as well, but Luis Enriquez in a frustrating position. Again, he is a very fast car right now. He's got a lot of pace. He's right there with Parrish. He's been glued to him for the latter half of this race and just unable to make the overtake. And just like last week, I got to wonder, is he waiting to make the move at the right time? Why pass him early? Why show your hand and give him a chance to fight back and learn something from you? If you're taking the lines differently, if you know something about this track that he doesn't, why would you go up in front of him so that he can watch your line and study how to be a little bit faster rather than just striking at the last possible moment? And that is something that Enriquez has done in the past. It seems like you get down to the last lap or two, and that's when he just turns on the light switch and he goes to work. But we'll have to see if that's what he's doing, or if he really just can't get around Parrish. If Parrish is just making that car wide, I wouldn't put it past him, because Parrish, again, he's got wins in the league. He's a very, very solid driver, and you can't really discount his talent whatsoever. Sedenge 1.3 seconds back, so closer than he was prior to the pit sequence, but not quite within lunging distance. And then a huge gap. I don't think we've seen this since probably
seconds.
4 or 5 weeks ago. Yeah, it's been quite a few weeks since we've seen a gap this big between the two lead packs.
Yeah, someone not even a pack so much as Scotty Banks. He's back there. He has a 2-second gap to Reese Gardner. Reese Gardner and Matt Malone, they've separated just a little bit. Gardner has a little bit of breathing room, but who doesn't have breathing room is Matt Malone with Jack Sanchez, who's just been kind of, again, average here today. for the most part, they're just now heading into the corkscrew, I believe. Yes, they are heading downhill. Again, just clipping grass wherever it is, but the sim allowing them to do so. As we are going to be closing in here, Andre. Oh, coming through the corkscrew this time by, look at Henriquez. It just seems as though they each have parts of the track that they have their advantages in. And I was going to say it appeared that Parrish is better on the back end of the track and Henriquez is better on the front of the track, but this time by the roles have reversed, because this time by Henriquez gains a lot of time and there is lap traffic coming into play with what should be 2 laps to go.
Yeah, it is not much time remaining, and you have that lap traffic making things complicated for the leaders. And it's not just one car. You look ahead of that car there, you're going to see a few more. So could come in to affect this race for the lead. Kevin Parrish has done a great job leading, I think, the most laps tonight out of anybody. I think he's led just about every lap. But again, not without pressure, because Luis Henriquez has been there to make his life miserable and keep him on his toes. Sedenge maintaining the gap about 1.3, 1.4, fluctuating back and forth. I think he's just outside of slipstream range, which there is some straightaways on this track, which it would help him quite significantly if he could just get another tenth or two. But as for right now, not quite close enough as we work our way through the winding corkscrew. The gap maintaining between 1 and 2. They've not got to the lap traffic yet. They'll probably reach him on the final lap of the event. 1 minute 26 seconds remaining. So it will be the white flag when they get to the stripe. Barney will have it in hand. This is almost a repeat of what we saw last week, Corey. Almost to a T. The only question is, do they both have enough fuel this time?
Yeah, I would imagine they would, because they are in that same ballpark as everybody else here coming into the last sequence of corners, 14 and 15. And then I think Barney's going to give the telltale sign, and there it is. He has it with a vengeance. He's ready to get this thing over the white flag lap. So one more trip here around this circuit here in Leeds, Alabama. I think the home of Charles Barkley, if I'm not mistaken here. Coming down through turn number 1. The gap is extending just a little bit, now to 3/4 of a... Well, 0.3 of a second, excuse me. It was down to the low 2s, but this is where Kevin Parrish seems to have a little bit of an edge. But once we head into the hard braking zone, we'll see how deep Henriquez can drive it in.
Yeah, it actually looks like Parrish has lost a little bit of time, but as you said, he's going to drive it in deep, and he does outbrake the leader just a little bit here on the white flag lap, and that lap traffic looming now clearer in the shot. They are going to get to him within a few corners. Question is, how much of an impact is it going to have on this battle into a heavy braking zone? The right, left, right. Looking back from the lap traffic, that is the battle for the lead behind him. And he's going to do everything he can to remain predictable. Don't be too much of a nuisance here. And he does go way out of his way. I don't think he had to go that way out of his way. But he does let him by, which is the respectable move for sure. But Sanchez closing that gap back 0.2 of a second now, using up every inch of the curb. You can see him hopping, and Mr. McGrew is going to go around.
I didn't even mean to catch that on camera, but I guess I'm glad I accidentally did here. As we come through the back end of the track here, lap car right in front, and that may slow things up here. Parrish is going to get a compromised entry into the final quarter, may lead to a crossover here. It may lead to a little bit of a drag race down the front straightaway. It will. He's out of fuel. He ran out of fuel, and Luis Henriquez. No.
Not again.
No, he got it. Yes, he got it. I think by 0.2 of a second, Parrish ran out of fuel on the final corner. And my gosh.
Oh my goodness.
We gotta come up with a
repeat.
We gotta come up with a nickname for this guy, because he is just between Henriquez now. This is his 3rd win, I believe, on fuel, and Parrish blowing them on fuel here. So we gotta come up with some verbiage here. Here comes a good battle here on circuit. This is 12th and 13th. This is Moore and who is that? Hodgson. And they're going to door bang through the final corner here. Every spot matters. And Hodgson, well, he's going to have issues with that. But let's go check out the replay there of that last lap turn of events.
Yeah, I cannot believe that. Jeff Schnackle is going to take the amateur win, just to make note of that. But Yeah, look at this. So the lap traffic giving Parrish a shallow entry, but the entry is not of his concern. It was the fuel. He runs out just shy of the line,
Yep,
and hypermiling Henriquez is going to pass him by.
We don't actually have a physical start line here, but this is where the flagman is, so ended up being that short here. We'll get it one from the blimp cam. So about a car length and a half. That was the difference. That's all it took here around Barber Motorsports Park. And Luis Henriquez, I mean, like you say, you got to be good some weeks, you got to be lucky some weeks, but this is the second, or really the third week in a row. No, it's the second week in a row he's been good and lucky. At Brands Hatch, he was good, but he just lacked the luck.
Yeah, that is something. I cannot believe that Kevin Parrish would replicate that mistake after doing it last week. That's just, and last minute. I mean, had he just saved a little bit more fuel, he would have made it to the line. He wouldn't be doing any burnouts and celebrating, but he would have made it to the line. That is insane. But hypermiling Henriquez is going to take the win.
There you go. I like
unofficially
that one.
Here. Kevin Parrish, P2. Luke Sedenga is going to wind up third. Scotty Banks, P4. Reese Gartner keeping them on their toes in fifth. Jack Sanchez works his way up from 10th to 6th. Matt Malone shakes out 7th. Neil Kemp going to be P8. Then you got the amateur division winner, Jeff Schnackle, in 9th. Mr. McGrew goes for a late race spin, but he brings it home inside the top 10.
All right, 11th place finds Tejano Toot there, and then 12th, David Moore. Kind of just had an average day here, but just outside the top 10. Still can't complain about that. Matt Thompson, 13th. Andy Smith, 14th. Jay Bast in the Jay Bast Mobile in 15th. Jesse Hodgson, we saw him have a little faux pas off the final corner, 16th. Labano, that face Bray. Freddie Weaver, he's not last. He's in 19th. And then Cam D. Decker in 20th.
Outside of the top 20, you got Ricky Paz in 21st. 22nd belongs to Brandon Smith. Daniel Gabaldon is going to be P23. 24th goes to Matthew Gazenda. And you got Dave Blair, 25th. Tom went to P26. And Jeff Bernard going to be P27. 28th goes to Mike Meekum. Stefan Price, 29th. And 30th, Evan Hoopchop.
All right, and just rounding out our field here, we got Brandon Garl in 31st, Taco Bell car of Eli Clough 32nd, Jay Little 33rd, and most of these guys were involved in incidents at some point, many of which earlier in the race. Got Casey 34th, Finch 35th, Greg Hartman 36th, Greg Rogers 37th, Scott Brooks, Jeff Andrus, and James Donahue. And just to finish things up, Campbell, Hosey, and Levi Powell. And I do just want to catch that last wreck that we missed. Oh, we caught it live, but we weren't really expecting it to analyze it. This was what happened between McGrew and Schnackle. Just catching that very quickly, and then we'll get to our interviews here. Well, that camera is utterly useless, but yeah, it just seemed like two guys going for the same piece of real estate there. I'll see if I can get a little bit better look here. Heading into the corkscrew. Yeah, he got sideways on in there and then just drove off kind of into him. So unfortunate turn of events there, but let's see if we can go ahead and start our post-race show, and let's see if these guys are queued up for us. All right, all right, our waiting room will go right to the top of the pylon. All right, Mr. Luis Henriquez, you've been good and you've been lucky. Well, today, again, good and lucky, and it gets you the win there with about an extra drop of fuel over Kevin Parrish. Have you compiled your thoughts over what just happened?
Man, I just feel so bad for him. I'm just going to be straight up honest. Like, back-to-back weeks, and we were going to have a really great finish there, and I don't know, like I don't know how I feel about that one.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you'd rather win it straight up rather than kind of just having it handed to you by misfortune, but obviously with the league changing the amount of fuel here relatively close to the beginning of the session, were you kind of prepared for what, minor change that might require for your pit stop?
Kind of. Like, it's not really best way that I could describe it is we carry more fuel, so the car is a little bit heavier, so I actually didn't account for that, so I was kind of running into issues with understeer. But at the same time, I was planning once again to be conservative. I had one extra lap just in case, but I don't know, I'm at a loss for words, honestly.
Yeah, well, obviously it's not how you want to get it, but you're on a really big hot streak here. You had this week one, you won last week, and you all but won Brands Hatch. So you're going to be closing in on that pro lead. This will definitely help out, man. So congrats on the win, and I think we're at Hungaroring next week, so we'll see if you can pull off the three-peat, see if you can get the turkey. Not many guys have done that.
Yeah, we'll see, because I had the luxury of being well versed with these tracks, so I'm very comfortable at them. But Hungaroring, I actually haven't tried it out in over a year, so that's going to be interesting for sure.
All right, well, you got your work ahead of you, and we're looking forward to see what you can pull off, man. Congrats.
All right, congrats as well. See you guys. Great broadcasting.
Thank you. And our amateur winner here, so we're going out of order, because Mr. Jeff Schnackle, he's just that daggone good. He's finishing ahead of the challenger guys, and he's with Andre.
Mr. Schnackle, you got a copy?
Yeah, hey, good evening, Andre. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, but just like last week, you're doing better, man. Another win here in the amateur division. You are keeping these pros on their toes, man. I mean, you just skipped challenger altogether, and you said, look, I might have the amateur tag on the name, but I'm right up here with the pros. So where is this speed coming from? And tell me a little bit about your race.
Honestly, just practice. Put the extra time in this week. Spent the time tweaking the setup as well, and ended up working out really well for me. Honestly, kind of surprised to be where I was at, but definitely a great race overall, and I couldn't be happier, honestly.
Yeah, this race was a challenging one for a lot of drivers. I think we went on about a 2.5 minute loop of just watching all the single car spins that happened in this race. The car was just an absolute handful for these guys. But every time we looked at your car, it seemed like you were calm, cool, and collected. Was your car just handling that good out there? You weren't struggling like these other guys, or are you just making it look easy?
No, I mean, the car honestly felt great. I really was practicing throttle control as well this week, and throttle control out of these, tight hairpin corners is, really imperative to help keep the tires in check as well from not sliding. So you save the tires for the rest of the race. So I think that definitely had a big part.
That it did. Well, again, congratulations on another amateur win, and again, we can't give you enough credit. We've been watching these last 2 weeks wondering, where is the bomb pop coming from? Just right here with the pros. So we're looking forward to seeing what you can do next week, and hopefully we're talking to you again.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Appreciate it. We'll see you next week.
All right, amateur winner out of the booth, and now Corey is going to have a word with the challenger winner, Mr. Matt Thompson. All
right, you get yourself a division win here today, Matt, and you're up 7 spots from you at the start of your race. It was a chaotic one, especially to start. A lot of guys having self-spins. We've had guys with fuel issues, and you were in the thick of quite a lot of battles here tonight, my friend. Just kind of summarize your night for us.
Oh, I started out definitely, I think, 14th through 18th went off on turn 1. Lost Chuck and Jeff Andrus out from in front of me there. And Charles and Jesse as well. So, yeah, I came out of the first turn in first place in Challenger. Couldn't hold Charlie off. I guess he had to disconnect on the iRacing. And then Jesse got in front of me again. I couldn't hold him off, and then he spun in the last corner. So tonight I'm going to take it as luck.
Well, as I told Luis, sometimes you got to be good and lucky if you want to get a spot, and it works out. As you said, a lot of guys having issues, and we're still on week 2 of the quote-unquote Mustang changes. And I don't know if we've gotten your take on it, but as you said, a lot of guys having issues. Now we have the league change and the fuel numbers a little bit to accommodate it. So after 2 weeks of these Mustang changes, where do you kind of sit on the review of it?
I don't like the tires, but I'm figuring out how to deal with them. I mean, it's loose, it's slidey. The fuel, I'm an engineer, so I go do the numbers, and I've got my fuel set where it's supposed to be. So there's no surprises there. But the tires are a challenge for everyone.
Yeah, certainly the case here, and we'll see what iRacing has in store. We got a patch tomorrow, so we'll see what they have in store for us, if anything. But get your passport ready. We're going back across the pond next week to Hungaroring, so we'll see what you can do there, man.
Yeah, it's going to be slippery.
All right, and hopefully raining. We were looking forward to that, but it didn't happen.
All
right, we'll see you, man.
All right, thanks you guys.
All right, so yes, Andre, we got baited on the rain as things cleared up here, but given what we saw, I don't think we needed any of it by how difficult this race seemed for these guys.
Yeah, absolutely, and hopefully, I know these drivers are not hoping for any rain next week, but you and I in the booth are just crossing our fingers, waiting for the first rain race, because if a dry track was as chaotic as tonight was, I'm sure a rain race is going to be quite fun and eventful to watch from the booth. Maybe not so fun behind the wheel, but again, a fun night, and I don't think in all my time broadcasting races, I have seen 2 back-to-back races end in the exact same way with the exact same drivers. So interesting night.
Yeah, kind of a one of those odd scenarios in life. But again, want to thank everyone for tuning in here to the channel. If you haven't liked and subscribed, please do so on our mission to 1,400 subscribers. Just need a little bit of help from you. We will be live tomorrow night with the Furniture Mart Late Model Series. We will be back on Thursday night for the Red Sox Racing League, Friday night for the Cannonball iRacing Series, and then I believe we are off this weekend on Saturday with SSRL, but we'll start again with them next week. That's going to be Corey and Andre signing out of the booth. Have a good night, and we'll catch you next time.